Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the F124 Driver Career Mode. We are headed to round lucky number 13 of our first season here with the Haas F1 team, and that is the Hungarian Grand Prix. Fresh off the heels of another pretty solid performance in Silverstone. Again, another track that very much spent a lot of FRS and league racing time on, so pretty strong with it. Hungary has been on the calendar a few times. It's a decent track, high downforce track though, so it's going to be a little bit trickier. Of course, with the way the AI is, their exits out of slower speed corners is pretty strong. So it should be an interesting one. Definitely a change from some of the higher speed tracks, Austria, Silverstone, that we've been to in the last couple of rounds. We're starting to get into the nitty gritty of the season. Coming up, I think we're just now past the halfway point because 24 race season, around 12 last time. So we're just now hitting what is essentially the back half of the season. Of course, we still have to pay a visit to Spa after this before the official summer break kicks in. But so far, we're starting to get the Haas into a spot that is kind of up the performance charts a little bit, starting to get to the front of that midfield pack, and makes it definitely more viable to be scoring points week in, week out. Of course, the couple P2 spots definitely higher than I would have expected to be in the last couple of races. I would expect we might have a return to form coming fairly soon. But let's take a look at any of the messages and any of the weather. It looks like it's going to be dry based on the single icons. So let's take a quick peek. If anything going on. A couple developments failed. Yeah, it should be dry the whole way through. And we did crack our 50 championship points. So very good improvements. So you just have a couple of goals still left to finish, 10 laps and whatnot. And we're already above our season target. You can see we're just there kind of creeping up on the back of Aston Martin. Still a little ways clear of Williams and the rest of the crew, but there's a bit of a gap to bridge. So let's get our engine components off of the practice ones onto some slightly more healthy sets of power units, and get ready to head over into qualifying.
It is time for the drivers to dance on the edge. You are never resting, you are never still in qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix right here at the Hungary.
So here we are winding it up for our first lap in the qualifying session around the Hungaroring. A slower speed, much higher downforce track. Some cars ahead of us we're going to have to navigate through, but as we get to just about the 100-meter board, get braked, turned into turn one, get on the power. Kind of a late opening of the DRS because you want that back end to be stabilized now. This tricky downhill, little tiny bit of front left locking, little too much turn in, got a bit onto the grass there for turn 3. Now headed up for turn 5. Quick left-handed flick, just trying to keep it inside track limits is always tricky. And then this long right-hander of turn 6. Corners come very quick at you here around the Hungarian Grand Prix, the Hungaroring. And this last section is all about just praying the car hooks up and grips. You go from kind of understeer on entry, and then as you're starting to get the power fed in, oversteer becomes a little bit of a problem. We're catching up with this Mercedes. A little bit of a slipstream. He's not moving off the racing line, so we kind of try to dodge out of the way at the last second, but that has absolutely compromised our lap, and we are just going to back out of it. So we're going again. We come into the pits to refuel. We're still on the same old set of tires because we still want to save a set for that final run in the last couple of minutes of the qualifying session. This time, though, does look like we have a little bit more clear track out ahead of us. And let's see if we can't find a little bit more time. A little bit wider through turn 3 there. Not on the grass, but probably a little bit too wide. You want to kind of split the middle, just get on that inside curve. But as expected, personal best through the first sector because we don't have a lap on board because we came directly into the pits after being impeded by the Mercedes on our first flying lap. Fernando Alonso resets fastest lap of the session on into the 114. So kind of the target we're looking at. Of course, we are dropping down because we don't have a time on the board just yet. See where we're at this second split compared to Piastri. We're actually a little ahead of him in P16, so a couple of tenths found for us there. Now we finally get to drive the final sector in anger. Very wide, a little front left lockup that kept us from really getting the car rotated and into the corner. Now for the final corner of the circuit. Probably scrubbed a little too much speed off there, but getting on the power, DRS open, use that last bit of battery, and we are only P16. So we were up almost 4 tenths on Piastri at the second sector split, but we barely get ahead of him. And our teammate Nico Hülkenberg in P14 as we wind up for our final flying lap, our last run in qualifying here. Down into turn 1. Very late on the brakes, too late on the brakes. We lose a good chunk of time on the way in, and we're going to already be about a tenth of a second down starting this lap. So just got a little too aggressive with the braking point into turn 1. We did find a little bit of time back into turn 3. Now up to the hill, turn 5. Much better speed through there. We actually find about a tenth of a second, and then turn 6, even more time. We're getting down 14.4s, and we just about keep it in track limits over the curbing of the chicane. So we're going to find a couple of tenths through the first 2 sectors, it appears. Not going to be enough to get us up near the sharp end of the grid. It looks like we've been pushed now down to P18, Nico Hülkenberg in P16. So, as always, you're trying to beat your teammate. We do have an opportunity to find some time in the penultimate corner here because we were not very good on it through our first lap. We do find about a tenth of a second or so, maybe even a little bit more. And then a little bit more time found just about in the final corner. Pretty even Stevens. We're across the line, find about 4 tenths. Is that going to be enough to move us up the grid ahead of our teammate P12? So indeed, we will be ahead of our teammate.
That
and
wraps
you
up
can see
qualifying,
just
but
how
don't worry.
tight
We'll be
those
back
margins
tomorrow
are getting
as we
in this
head into the Grand
midfield
Prix.
pack. It's quite close. Only a tenth and a half from ourselves to Nico, and then it's a pretty big jump down to Logan Sargent.
It's race day in Budapest as we get ready for another round of Formula One action. It's tight, it's technical. Some drivers love it, some drivers find it a challenge. Either way, there's been so much drama in the last couple of years at the Hungarian Grand Prix. We're in the northeast of Budapest for the race today then at the 2.7 mile Hungaroring circuit. 14 corners here, 8 to the right and 6 to the left on a track where downforce is king and passing is notoriously difficult. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Considering the rest of the grid we have Russell, Fernando Alonso, Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Leclerc, Stroll, Sainz, Perez, Albon, Oldtimer, Gasly, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Sargent, Joe, and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. Welcome to the commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes. Alongside us for this one is Naomi Schiff. Now, those final hours before a race, did you have a routine?
Well, every driver certainly has their own way of preparing themselves before a race. But I can tell you that pre-race rituals are a real thing. When I was in go-karting, I used to touch every wheel in a specific sequence before I got into the kart. And then I stepped up to cars and had a specific set of fireproof base layers just for race day. So watch the drivers when they're on the grid. Some may be sitting on the floor and isolating, others may be up to other things that they do. But these little things really help their minds get ready for the race.
Okay, mate, Mark here. Quick radio check. Right, we're hoping for another strong podium this weekend, so go get out there and get us a result.
Well, now we've got expectations. Another podium I don't think that's going to happen. But we are going to stick with a pretty standard medium-hard one-stop strategy here. We're going to bring in the pit stop just about a lap early or so. See if we can't get a little bit of an undercut done. But here we are from P12. The 5 red lights are up. It's a heavy braking zone into turn 1, but a fair bit of wheel spin getting off the line. So we don't get a very good release. Gasly going around the outside of us. We've got the inside. And looking up the inside, they're 3 wide in front, so we just got to kind of tuck in side by side with Carlos Sainz. We are going to kind of maintain that position. He gets better drive off the corner, so that does get us clear of Gasly. We are going to dive up the inside of turn 3, try and get all the way around. He's still just about there. A little contact side by side. It kind of upsets us for turn 4. We do get clear of him. So we were trying to give him a little bit of a squeeze as he came back, in a very slow run from everybody through turn 5. So that's going to put us in the attacking position on Albon, but around the outside of turn 6. We're going to try and hold this place through the chicane, which is slow and tricky to go around the outside, and we do just about get ourselves into P10. So a decent opening lap so far, but the critical importance not to lose this lead pack, hopefully, because that's where even more points are going to be available to us. So we have managed to get back within the 1 second margin. It does look like we are a little bit better than the opponents on the brakes, but they're better on traction and getting out of the corners, which, considering it's a decent traction corner out of the final corner down the main overtaking area, which is the pit straight, we're going to have to be very careful about that. So we've managed to kind of reattach ourselves to this long train of cars with the Red Bull of Sergio Perez just ahead of us. I would expect later in the race, just based on pure performance, Carlos Sainz should be able to start making his way through in that Ferrari. So it does put us at a bit of risk when it comes to points-paying positions, because there are kind of 5 teams out ahead of us in the performance charts. But it's all about how you drive it, and we are starting to lose gap just a bit. Looks like McLaren is taking the lead of the race on the mini-map there. And we are just falling off the back, although we should be able to make a little bit of it back up under braking. We might be able to get back within DRS. And so we're being pretty liberal with our use of the overtake button, which we should be at this stage of the race. There's a little bit of a gap forming with the Mercedes ahead of us, falling off the back of one of the Aston Martins. So we do manage to hang on to that DRS, and Norris sets fastest lap of the race on the 1 minute 17s. We're going to be closer to the 1 minute 18s or so. So not quite at the full flying pace of the lead pack of cars, but see under braking how much time we can gain on the cars ahead of us. But then the concertina effect opens up once again. Red Bull going for the move on a Mercedes up ahead, or is that the Ferrari that he's making the move on? A Ferrari side by side. So that's helping us stay with this group as they fight tooth and nail as they go side by side through corners. You really can't go easily side by side through. You can see how much is checked up. I'm going to try and do kind of what we did to Albon on lap 1, go around the outside of the Red Bull, but he's just got a bit more traction and drive. Can we try and dive it up the outside? We're going to go for it way around the outside, and we actually managed to get the move done on Sergio Perez. So up another spot now into P9. And that was all thanks to the fighting of Verstappen and Leclerc ahead, slowing Perez up, giving us an opportunity to kind of send it around the outside of turn 6 and then up the hill into turn the 7-8 chicane. Got the job done. Not a traditional overtaking spot, but so far, 2 laps into this race, and, well, we've made the move twice. Does look like the Mercedes, I believe that's George Russell, has lost the DRS from the cars ahead. Perez trying to make another move on us. We don't really have a spot to go, so we're going to have to try and hang it out around the outside of him. We're not able to defend super hard. We do get the traction down as we come out of turn 2 and tuck right back into the slipstream. So we are going to be under pressure from the cars behind, definitely, I'm finding, out of the final corner. As long as we can maintain a touching distance and DRS to some of these faster cars, we'll get pulled along. But it looks like the breakaway pack of Leclerc and Verstappen is going to leave us kind of in a position where there's not much of a bit of a lockup into the chicane there. You can see the awkward angle we had to take into that corner because the car got unsettled by the lockup. Is that going to be enough to drop us out of the DRS range of the Mercedes ahead? I don't think it will. We should be still close enough regardless. And it does look like we've managed to catch right back up to that Mercedes. and continue on our way. So 3 laps done into this, what we're expecting to be a 12-lap stint here on the medium tires. And it's just going to be all about managing the gap, making sure we don't get attacked, save some battery where we can. A huge train of cars. And again, Perez having a little look. Defensive goes George, so we're going to sweep around the outside and just go for the move. He's kind of defended thin air if you expect it, but with the DRS help, that gives us the inside for turn 3. He's still hanging out around the outside, but then we finally get the power down, and now he's going to be going side by side with Perez as they head up towards turn 5, and that is going to cost them a fair bit of time going side by side, nearly getting to now a 1 second margin to Perez behind us. So another move done on this fifth lap of the race. Got some work going, but you can see the gaps already forming on the mini map. We've got 3.4 seconds to try and catch up to Charles Leclerc, and then even bigger gap between Verstappen and the back of the Aston Martins. I believe that's probably going to be Stroll as the second Aston. Aston Martin coming on very strong at this stage of the year. The car performance is looking very good. Perez has managed to catch right back up to our gearbox. And we are starting to build a little bit of a gap to Russell. In fact, Russell has lost the DRS. So I'm not really going to fight this move from Perez all that hard. I don't want to cost us time because we do have the opportunity to kind of do what Leclerc and Verstappen are doing and break away and just make some clean gap. Because then if we get away from this train, then even if I'm losing position to Perez, if I can just sit in his wheel tracks, should give us a relatively comfortable run throughout the rest of this race. We're going to jump ahead, lap 11 of 35. Perez has managed to get away from us. We weren't able to hang on to the back of him as our tires wore out. Sainz making the move and actually kind of closing off the racing line. So tiny bit of contact in the braking zone. You can see the wear on that front left tire. Just didn't manage it very well. I was pushing probably a little too hard in order to try and stay with Perez, but eventually just had to fall off the back of him. So we're down into P10 again, and well, not ideal. We're still just about hanging on to points, and with the way even with the 2 podiums back to back in the last 2 races, I'm still just aiming to go for points. I know I'm going to ebb and flow as the tracks get to ones that I'm more or less familiar with, or just even tracks I'm familiar with but not so great at. I have a familiarity with Hungary, but it's just never been my best circuit to be at. Had some decent results in league racing around here, but still never really was my favorite one to drive, and didn't feel I never felt I was really hammering in laps around here the same way that I do sometimes around like Austria, for example, or Silverstone, which is an AI strong track in the past, but this year seemed to be a lot less strong for the AI around Silverstone. So DRS open as we are starting lap 12. We'll be looking to come into the pits at the end of this lap. If we can get a little cheeky, maybe get in front of Sainz if he might be coming in this lap. Otherwise, we'll try and undercut him by going a lap early. We definitely don't want to drop back too much further into the clutches as Albon's hanging on to the Ferrari and us quite nicely. So again, that same kind of looking to build a bit of a gap, a little bit of a margin to work with. If we don't have to worry about, for example, Ocon in P12 getting involved with the attack, then I think that's pretty good news overall for the state of the race. 35 laps, decent number of laps around here. 1 minute, 17, 18 laps. Our best lap so far is a 1:18.3. And we are now, just like we did with Perez, losing touch with Carlos Sainz, but that's fine. Front left tire is really dead at this stage of the race. I definitely learned for the later stint that I needed to protect that front left a little bit more. It made the track pretty difficult. I actually am staying out. I thought I was going to go lap 12, or was I thinking the wrong number? No, 14. Sorry, I was thinking the other even number. So still going to be our target for an undercut. I believe everybody else, or the default strategy actually was 15, and that I saw literally like 12 minutes ago, and I've forgotten apparently. Brain doesn't work all the time. We're just maybe starting to reel in signs a little bit more. We looked like we were kind of dropping back from him, but we did kind of make up some time in turn 2 and 3. We are just about getting back in, but you can see how the car does not want to turn into the first right-hander, that chicane especially. And this right-hander, you can see just laboring to get the car rotated. That front left tire not providing the grip I need, as it has worn down significantly more than the rest.
Okay, pit in this lap, and remember the speed limit. We'll be penalised if we exceed it. Keep that in mind as you approach.
So we're going to get close to that 1 second margin on Sainz, but it's not really going to matter because we are coming into the pits this lap, and Sainz is staying out. Looks like Albon is also staying out. Let's see if we can have a good, strong pit stop, see where we'll come out in relation to the rest of the cars. We should come out in pretty clean air, P20, although there is a Cash App RB just coming out of the final corner now. He should still clear us down the pit straight.
Okay, let's go now.
But he is going to be Yuki Tsunoda. His car will probably catch up to relatively quickly if he's already had to come in and stop. Then he's going to be in pretty worn tires at this point. I can only think he had to have made an extra stop in order to fall this far back. But we'll utilize some of the hot lap ERS deployment mode around here. You can kind of just keep it in a hot lap if you're not burning overtake for defense too much. We got 3.4 seconds to catch up to Yuki. And we'll see if cars should start coming in this lap. Yeah, it looks like a couple of the leaders are on the way into the pits. McLaren staying out, Aston Martin staying out. Looks like Hamilton and one of the Astons, likely Alonso, I think is the lead there. All three of the pack of Verstappen, Leclerc, and the other McLaren, which I believe should be Piastri, are on their way in. And it looks like our teammate is into the pits as well. So we'll see where we come out in relation to Albon and Sainz, who are our real benchmarks for the current stage. It looks like Sainz might have actually stayed out. And there we go, clearing Albon. So undercut successful. And that actually, I think, gives us a good 2 or 3 seconds, maybe even more on that lap. It was pretty strong lap. Yeah, 5 seconds the margin back to Alex Albon. So their tires wearing off quite a bit as well. But we aren't really making too many inroads on Yuki Tsunoda. I believe those are probably relatively fresh then medium tires. And he's going for the 2-stop strategy. 4 seconds off the back of Verstappen. Not a huge change in that regard to what we were before. Made up just a little bit of time. I think it was probably closer to about 5 seconds to him. As Perez has stayed out. And yeah, I think that's Perez and Sainz. So now the McLaren, Aston Martin both coming into the pit lane. And also Red Bull and Ferrari of Perez and Sainz on their way into the pits. So we essentially got 2 laps worth of undercut on them. It looks like they are already on the move once again. Joe is in, Sargent's in.
Yes, mate, we hit the target. Nice work.
And we are actually going to clear both Perez and Carlos Sainz on the undercut there. A much smaller gap, of course, to Perez. He's going to get those tires fired up nicely, but we've finally got the hard tires in a pretty good working range. So now that we've done those out laps in hot lap mode, you can see the battery is burned down a fair chunk. We're going to go ahead and switch the ERS back down, try and start conserving battery, as it's likely going to be for the remainder of this race, trying to defend into turn 1 and turn 2 over the course of this one. And then just save battery the rest of the way. We'll likely back them, if we're unable to get a move done, we'll likely back them up towards Alex Albon. And we'll have quite the battle for the final points paying positions. I think Yuki, I believe, is on a 2-stop, should be coming in again. So we'll likely see him drop off. But oh, yellow flags in the sector. Who is that yellow flag for? That's Sergio Perez pulling off the road. Perez out of this race. It looks like he's been parked up in a decent spot. Alonso goes fastest ever with a 16.8. What kind of lap times are we doing? We've got 2 personal best sectors here. And we are doing 18.1s. So not a personal best in the final sector. But we're going to jump ahead now, lap 19 of 35. Carlos Sainz has caught up to the back of us. There was no VSC or safety car. And we've managed to conserve a good deal of battery. So can we try and defend from Carlos Sainz now? He's got that DRS wide open. And down into turn 1 is going to get fully clear of us. So a pretty easy move for Sainz to move him back up into P9. And let's see this time if we can't hang on to the Ferrari in front of us. Alex Albon 3.8 seconds back, so he is still making some ground to try and catch up to us. Ocon 8.1, likely, unless there's a pretty bad result in my pace, which the later end of the first stint definitely was losing a lot of tire. I'm trying to focus on saving that front left a little better this time around, but it's still trying to balance saving that front left tire with also staying with the car ahead is a bit of a tough challenge to put side by side. So 0.9 as we get ready to head into the braking zone for the final little infield section. And a little wide in the penultimate corner, but we should be able to hang on to just barely the DRS. We've just passed the detection point before it ticked up to 1 second, and indeed, rear wing is open. So
they've got an issue with their car. They're going to be slow.
Hefty jump ahead. We've got yellow flags up ahead as a McLaren pulling off to the side. Lando Norris out of the session. We did lose touch with Carlos Sainz, so now it's been just all about managing the gap to Alex Albon. He's closed it to 2.2. Ocon not making really any inroads against us. We're using that hot lap mode a bit more liberally. So we are shifted up to P8 thanks to the DNF of Lando Norris.
Okay, clear.
With only a few laps left to go, and that's Albon has had an off in the chicane. You can see he's dropped right back. So now it's 8.8 seconds to Esteban Ocon. Our teammate Nico Hülkenberg has moved up into the points-paying positions at this point. He is in quite the gaggle of cars you can see on the track map. So hopefully he can score some points for this team as well. But we're pretty much in clear air for the remainder of this one. Winding up to start the final lap of the race. You can see Hülkenberg has moved up into P9, now leading that gaggle the last time down the DRS straight. Not typically where you want to be. So let's see. Let's keep an eye on the tower on the left and see if Nico is indeed able to hold on to a top 10 finish. Looks like he's gotten good exit. We've got some wheel spin and not a good exit, but it doesn't really matter out of turn 1 there, as we are kind of in our own little race. He's managed to hold position into turn 1. Can he get a good exit out of turn 1? Headed down to turn 3? I think it's turn 3 technically, but he's just ahead of that pack and most of the job is done. Very difficult to overtake around the rest of this circuit. So, can we get a double points finish for the Haas outfit here around the Hungaroring? Developments coming in, playing an important role. Oscar Piastri takes the race win for McLaren ahead of a Mercedes and an Aston Martin, a Red Bull and a Ferrari finishing up next. We should have an Aston and Ferrari of Stroll and Sainz next across the line. Hülkenberg still maintaining P9, although very close to him is Esteban Ocon. As we come around the final corner, checkered flag waving, a P8 finish for us here, and it should hopefully see our teammate finish off in P9. Driver of the day for Nico, nicely done.
There'll be smiles at the factory after that one. A great race and a real team performance to take victory here in Hungary.
It's one thing to put fast laps together, but to make these moves stick without losing too much time, that's real racecraft.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
Art imitates life. Oscar Piastri picking up his first win in very different fashion from the real world here at the Hungaroring, but on the top step of the podium. Very different friends on the podium, though, in this one. Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton sharing the steps of the podium. Not a great day for our championship leader, Max Verstappen, though.
Well, that certainly was an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.
And Nico did indeed hold down that P9 finish. Our best lap time is only 1,000th apart, although we held him by about 12 seconds over the course of the entire Grand Prix. Esteban Ocon rounds out points paying positions. So I believe we had 2 DNFs. Yeah, just Lando Norris and Sergio Perez. Verstappen still in a healthy lead at the top of the championship, but good result for Alonso there will move him ever closer. We are up to P6 in the Constructors. So immediately, failure at one of our developments, so we'll have to redevelopment that, and another secret meeting. See if we've got any interest. Who is coming to take a look at us? Kick Sauber. Still looking to stay with the Haas F1 team. We're starting to make some good movements. So comparing, we're well ahead of them in the Constructors, largely on my 69 points now. But we'll go ahead and decline talks. I'm looking to not be too jumpy at the early stage of the career. Maybe in a couple seasons we'll take a look and see. But just want to try and stay with the Haas F1 team. Try and develop. We're moving very quickly up the tables, so we might be able to actually compete for good results more consistently come a year or two from now. Let's go ahead and get some of our specialists on. No collision with 3 cars, 175 or higher, top speed of 207, which we're going to Spa, so should be pretty easy. 250 gear shifts in a single session should be easily doable in either the race or likely even just the race sim, the 5-lap race sim. Do a lot of shifting up and down every single lap. We've clutched our driver rating as we expect. Starting to close in on Aston Martin. Let's take a look at what upgrades we might have available. Still very low in the aerodynamic development, so huge opportunities for us there. But tire wear is going to be critical. Still something I'm working very focused on. We chance it? Then we might chance it. Try and go for it. It's a tough choice. Then I remembered we need to do a redevelopment. That will be guaranteed to get ahead of the Dutch Grand Prix. Now, can we? We are 1 point from being able to afford that upgrade. So, do we spend it on the wing mirrors? Try and get some drag reduction. We are going to go for it. Just at standard development, though. Not take the chance of trying to get it early. Let's advance, see if any others fail. Indeed, durability, not a huge issue. The other one was successful, though, so that's probably fine.
We're going to need to tell the team what to redevelop via the R&D screen.
But at this stage of the career, a lot of redevelopments having to go on, a lot of failed developments, which is not the best case scenario, unfortunately. But thank you all for joining me for another episode of the series. I appreciate all the viewership. Appreciate y'all and the comments when they come. But thank you for joining me. I'll catch you guys next time for the Belgian Grand Prix, a track I really have a good time at and enjoy. It's been on the FRS calendar a bunch, so maybe we can pull out a heck of a result. See you next time. Peace.